The chandelier light shimmered above a table of polished marble, but the air inside the boardroom was heavy. At the head of the table, Zahir al-Fulan, one of the wealthiest men in the Middle East, leaned forward. His words rolled in Arabic, smooth yet precise, a dialect unfamiliar to most American ears. The translators froze. Their pens hovered. Pages remained blank. A nervous cough echoed from the corner. The American CEO shifted in his leather chair. His assistant fumbled with a phone under the table, thumb flying over Google Translate. The app stalled. The screen blinked. Nothing. Silence thickened like smoke. A dozen suits stared, wide-eyed, not daring to admit they hadn't understood a single word the billionaire had just spoken. Zahir's gaze swept the table. He was used to power, to clarity. Tonight he had offered neither in English. He wanted to see who could follow. No one did. Until a small, steady voice cut through the silence. He said, "Trust is not written in ink, but in action." The room turned, not slowly, snapping, as though every neck had been pulled by the same string. At the far end, against the panelled wall, stood a young black girl, 10 years old at most. A navy hoodie 2 sizes too big hung over her frame. Her hair was pulled into tight curls. In her arms, she clutched a spiral notebook, edges frayed from use. Her eyes, bright, unwavering, met Zahir's. The CEO blinked. Who said that?" A partner whispered under his breath. "Was that the janitor's kid?" Another voice hissed. "What's she doing in here?" The translator's face turned red. He lowered his notes, all eyes locked on the child who had just broken their paralysis. The billionaire tilted his head, studying her. Then, switching to English, his tone sharp but calm. "You speak Arabic?" The girl didn't flinch. She hugged the notebook closer, her voice quiet yet clear. "Yes, sir. And I understood what you meant." A ripple ran through the room. Suits shifted in their seats. Someone muttered, "Impossible." The assistant with the phone blurted, "That can't be right. Google didn't—" But the CEO cut him off with a glare. Zahir leaned back, interest flickering across his face. "Repeat it." In my dialect, her lips moved carefully, syllables flowing like water, the exact cadence, the exact accent. The same words he had spoken only minutes ago returned to him perfectly by a child who shouldn't have been there at all. The translator's pen dropped to the table with a clatter. Silence again. But this silence was different. Not confusion, not ignorance. This was shock. The CEO tried to recover, clearing his throat. "Miss, what's your name?" The girl stood straighter, her voice calm. "Kiana Knight." A murmur ran through the room. Last names carried weight, even if hers came from a janitor's badge. "Knight," one executive muttered. "Isn't that the guy who—" Another hushed him. Zahir's eyes sharpened. He wasn't smiling, but curiosity had replaced arrogance. "And your father?" She swallowed. Her voice softened but did not break. "He works here." "He cleans these halls," the CEO exhaled sharply, rubbing his forehead. We can't, seriously." But Zahir lifted a hand. The interruption died instantly. For the first time all evening, the billionaire's words came in English. "Then tonight, gentlemen, it seems the clearest voice in this room belongs not to you, not to your lawyers, but to the janitor's daughter." The executives froze. No one moved. Zahir looked directly at Kiana. "You understood not only my words, but my meaning. That makes you rare and valuable." A few suits exchanged uneasy glances. The translator stared down at his shoes, wishing to vanish. Kiana's fingers tightened around her notebook. She hadn't meant to speak. She hadn't meant to be seen. But now every powerful eye in the room was locked on her. And for the first time in her short life, silence didn't make her small. It made her undeniable. In a world where power speaks in languages few understand, the most unexpected voice can become the only one that matters. This is the story of Kiana Knight, the janitor's daughter, who silenced a room of billionaires. 6 hours earlier, the hotel pulsed with neon and brass. Elevators chimed, vacuums hummed. Leonard Knight, sleeves rolled, pushed his grey cart down the service hall. In the employee lounge sat Kiana, 10 years old, hoodie too big, notebook on her lap. "Ground rules?" he asked. She recited, "Don't leave the lounge, don't talk to guests, don't touch the cart, and if someone asks, I'm waiting for my dad." "That's my girl." He slid over her Arabic dictionary, spine taped like a scar. She'd already filled the cover with careful calligraphy. Gloria, the bellwoman, poked in. "You good, baby?" "Yes, Mom." She left a peppermint, then murmured to Leonard, "Caldwell's fine with it." He nodded. No school, no family left since Lupus took Maya. Moments later, Renee Caldwell, night manager, appeared. "She stays in the lounge." "You call if you leave clear," Leonard said. Back inside, Kiana grinned. 7 new words today. Aman, safety, kalb, heart, thaka, trust, heavy word, Leonard teased. "I like heavy words." "They don't blow away." His radio crackled. "Level 3, conference suite, spill 2 minutes, he said, before rolling the cart out. Kiana sat still, nibbling her peppermint, tracing Arabic letters like gears. From down the corridor came another call, boardroom AVIPS. Bring a fresh carafe through a glass panel. She glimpsed chandeliers, marble, faces from magazines. And then, Arabic, round vowels, rhythms she knew from YouTube and her dictionary. Her heart jumped. She pressed the book to her chest, listening. Words she had written only hours before spilled out, Aman, kalb, thaka, safety heart, trust. Her pencil moved without thought, capturing sentences as they bloomed. The boardroom door didn't latch, voices carried, languages are magnets, and children lean closer to what calls them. Gloria's voice startled her. "You okay, baby?" "Yes, ma'am." Inside, a splash, a scramble, the door pulled wider. For a moment, the world opened. Gloria leaned down. "Just tonight, see what your daddy sees." Kiana stepped closer, small against the paneled wall, invisible, yet waiting for her moment to speak. The Empire Grand Hotel was no stranger to wealth, but tonight, the weight in the air was heavier than crystal chandeliers could hold. A last-minute meeting had been called, an unscheduled gathering that made the night shift scramble. At the center of it all, Zahir Al-Fulan, billionaire magnate from Dubai, known for reshaping skylines and swallowing corporations whole. Word had spread that he was considering a controlling stake in an American hotel chain. If he signed, fortunes would rise. If he walked, careers would end. Executives from Landmark Hospitality Group sat stiff-backed around the marble table, suits pressed, ties strangled. Each carried the nervous gleam of people who knew they were being measured. At the front, in a padded chair set almost theatrically close to Zahir, sat the translator, a young man with neat hair and a laptop glowing. He adjusted his glasses, flipped his notes, rehearsing phrases in his head. This was his moment, his paycheck, his responsibility. But beneath the calm surface, unease rippled. The Americans whispered to one another. "Why Arabic?" "He speaks English." "Not tonight." Another hissed back. "He's testing us." Through a pane of frosted glass just off the boardroom, a narrow lounge hummed with vending machine light. A poster read, "Employees only," but it doubled as overflow space for staff who needed quick breaks. Here sat Kiana Knight, legs tucked under her hoodie, notebook balanced on her knees. From her angle, the glass blurred the outlines, men leaning forward, arms gesturing, the flicker of a chandelier. She couldn't see faces, but she could hear. The walls were old, too thin for secrets. Arabic syllables rolled through the seam of the door, curved, elegant, alive. Kiana's pencil began to move, scratching notes in 2 columns, one in English, one in Arabic, script she had practiced until her hands cramped. Kalb, Aman, Thaka, heart, safety, trust. In the hallway, Leonard passed with his cart, casting her a glance that said, "Stay put." She nodded, but her ears remained fixed on the room beyond. Inside, the translator shifted, already sweating. The Americans leaned back, their faces betraying the same thought. "We don't understand." One executive whispered, "We're flying blind here." another muttered, then pray he's saying what we want to hear. The meeting had just begun, but the cracks were already forming. Behind the glass, unseen by all of them, a 10-year-old girl traced meaning out of sound. Her mother's words echoed in her memory. Words build bridges. Kiana clutched her notebook tighter. She was only supposed to wait quietly until her father's shift ended, but the room next door was collapsing into confusion, and she, the janitor's daughter, understood every word. The glass pane blurred the billionaires, but to Kiana the sounds were sharp, familiar. She'd been listening from the shadows long before tonight. Flashback, 2 years earlier. In a cramped Queen's apartment, radiator hissing, a cracked tablet glowed on her face. Earbuds in, she whispered, Marhaban. Ana ismi Kiana. Hello. My name is Kiana. When Wi-Fi failed, she switched to YouTube, mimicking anchors and poets. Cheap notebooks filled with scribbles, bridges made of words. Her father Leonard would come home in his janitor coveralls, shoulders heavy. You sure this is what you want, baby girl? She nodded. It makes me feel close to Mum. The word Mum always hurt. Lupus had taken Kiana Knight too soon. Her last words still echoed. Words can build bridges where walls have been built. Leonard worked doubles, stretched paychecks thin. One Saturday, he found a battered English-Arabic dictionary in a second-hand bookstore. The price stung, but he paid. When he handed it to her, she whispered, You serious? Serious as a mop bucket, he said. She hugged it like treasure. Back to the lounge. That same dictionary lay open, tape along its spine, sticky notes fluttering like flags. Kiana traced the words she'd just heard through the boardroom door. Aman, Kalb, Thaka, safety heart, trust, not just sounds, bridges she had been building since her mother's last breath. And tonight, those bridges would carry her straight into the storm no one expected a 10-year-old to face. The boardroom doors sighed shut. Zahir al-Fulan folded his hands, speaking in Arabic, measured, deliberate, the cadence of centuries. He spoke of peace, shared stewardship, planting in soil you don't own, and tending fruit together. The translator glanced at his screen. His Excellency says, we expect majority ownership, or no deal. A string snapped, chairs creaked, a pen cracked. CEO Matthew Caro leaned back, eyes narrowing. Majority or nothing? Yes, the translator nodded too quickly. Sophia Beaumont, Landmark's legal counsel, frowned. That's not yesterday's language. Caro pushed from the table. We won't be strong-armed in our own house, the translator stammered. He believes control should rest with his office. Zahir spoke again, trust measured by action, 2 hands on the helm. The translator twisted it. He insists on unilateral authority. Unilateral? Sophia pressed. Correct, he muttered. Caro slid his chair farther back. Then we're done. Behind the frosted glass, Kiana Knight stiffened. The Ikazmo Arabic she heard didn't match the English. Where the translator carved demands, Zahir offered metaphors. Majority was really shared guardianship. Unilateral was 2 helms, 1 course. Her fingers clenched the taped dictionary. Inside, Caro rose. If that's the condition, this ends here. The translator hesitated, then nodded as if signing a death warrant. Zahir's expression flickered, like a man watching a bridge collapse under him. From the corner, Jeff Powers muttered, Exactly why we needed our own translator. Sophia leaned in. Show me your notes. The man shifted his laptop away. It's proprietary. The room chilled. Kiana's heart thudded. She scribbled the words she'd just heard. Aman, Kalb, Thaka, safety heart, trust, underlined twice. At the doorway, Leonard Knight appeared with an empty tray. His eyes caught hers through the glass. Don't. But the deal was already collapsing. Folders closed, pens capped, the CEO turning away. And the only person who could save it was 10 years old. Chairs scraped, papers snapped shut. The deal was collapsing. Kiana gripped her notebook, her father's warning echoing, stay put, stay small. But the lie twisted too deep. Before she knew it, she was on her feet. That's not what he said. The room froze, heads turned toward the frosted glass, where a slim figure stood clutching a notebook to her chest, a nervous laugh. Who let a kid in here? Zahir's eyes sharpened. The translator stiffened. This is inappropriate. Kiana's voice cut him off. He didn't say majority ownership. He spoke of 2 hands on 1 helm, about trust silence. Jeff Powers scoffed. What is this? Bring your daughter to work night. Uneasy chuckles followed. Security moved toward her. Leonard appeared behind, panic in his face. Kiana! But she stepped forward, chandelier light catching her eyes. He said, Trust is not written in ink, but in action. Not ownership. Not threats. The translator flushed. She's mistaken. Just a child. Zahir raised a hand. The room hushed, his gaze fixed on her. Repeat it. In my words. Kiana's breath caught. Then Arabic rose in her throat, flowing steady, perfect cadence. The translator's pen slipped from his fingers. Executives shifted, realizing the deception. Caro froze mid-exit, staring back at the girl who had stopped millions from unraveling. The guard waited, but Zahir's lips curved, almost a smile, enough to chill the translator. The boardroom had found its new center, a 10-year-old janitor's daughter. Zahir didn't look at the translator. He looked only at the girl. In Arabic, he said quietly. As I said it. Kiana nodded once. She lifted her chin, drew a breath, and let the words roll, rounded vowels, clipped consonants, the Maghrebi lilt that softened certain syllables and tightened others. She mirrored his phrasing, the rhythm of an elder, speaking across a courtyard at dusk. When she finished, she added the English herself, clean and calm. 2 hands on 1 helm. Trust proven by action, not signatures. No one person owns the sea. No one moved. The translator stared at the table, color draining from his face. A small tremor touched his hand. Sophia's eyes cut to the billionaire. Is that accurate, sir? Zahir inclined his head. Precisely. A murmur spread, low and electric. Jeff Powers shifted in his chair, the bravado leaking out of him like air from a punctured tire. Caro's grip eased on the back of his chair. He sat again, slower this time. Zahir addressed the translator at last, tone still mild. How long did you know she was right? The man swallowed. There were nuances. Nuances, Sophia repeated, flat. Zahir turned to Kiana. Your accent. Morocco, she nodded. Casablanca videos and radio clips. A corner of his mouth lifted. Imperfect sources. Remarkable result. The security guard stepped back half a pace, hands folding in front of him. Gloria, in the doorway, allowed herself the smallest smile. Caro cleared his throat, shoulders settling as the room's center of gravity shifted back to the table. If we've been speaking past each other, we should start again. On the record, Sophia tapped her legal pad. We'll need corrected notes. Kiana lowered her notebook, heartbeat loud in her ears. Leonard stood just behind her, both proud and terrified. Zahir gestured to an empty chair near his side. If she's willing, let her sit. Silence held for a beat, then broke, less like glass and more like a door opening. The meeting wasn't over. It had just begun again. The room had steadied, though its rhythm felt utterly different now. Executives exchanged wary glances, pages flipped, pens scratched, but every eye still circled back to the girl, standing small and steady near the table. Zahir leaned back in his chair, a rare glimmer of amusement breaking the gravity on his face. Tell me, child, what is your name? Kiana clutched her notebook a little tighter, but her voice was clear. Kiana Knight, sir. The syllables seemed to anchor in the room. Leonard's throat caught behind her, his hand hovering just above her shoulder, as if ready to pull her back, but unable to move. Zahir inclined his head, almost formal. Kiana Knight, he repeated, rolling the sounds as though committing them to memory. Then his gaze softened. Would you mind joining us? Tomorrow morning? The air rippled. Executives froze mid-breath. The translator looked as though he'd been erased from existence. Kiana blinked, too surprised to answer. Leonard stepped forward, finally finding his voice, though faint. Sir, She's just a child. Zahir's eyes didn't waver. Children often hear what adults forget to listen to. For a moment, no one moved. The chandelier's crystals swayed gently above, scattering, light like quiet applause. Leonard stood silent, caught between fear and awe, while his daughter had just been invited into a world no one ever expected her to touch. Fanchin morning light cut across the 29th floor, turning the boardroom's marble into a river of glare. The meeting reconvened, tension sharper than before. Executives clustered at one end. Sophia Beaumont, Landmark's chief counsel, tapped her pen. She's 10. And we're supposed to believe a janitor's daughter outperformed a certified translator. Jeff Powers grunted. Embarrassed all of us. It's more than embarrassment, Sophia shot back. Think. Zahir's deal was collapsing. Then suddenly, a child with perfect dialect saves him. That's theater. Not coincidence? Caro rubbed his temples. You're saying she was planted? I'm saying shareholders won't forgive us for being duped by a child. Robert Mallory, the oldest partner, shook his head. I watched her. No script, no hesitation. You can fake poise, not conviction. Conviction doesn't translate contracts, Sophia snapped. The door opened. Leonard Knight entered quietly, cap in hand. Kiana followed, clutching her taped dictionary. Behind them, Zahir. The room fell silent. Sophia stood before he could speak. With respect, before we proceed, we must address yesterday's spectacle. A minor child correcting billion-dollar negotiations? It strains belief Kiana's grip tightened on her notebook. Leonard stayed silent. Zahir's gaze cooled. You question her? I question legitimacy, Sophia said. If authentic, prove it. If not, it's manipulation. He turned to Kiana. Repeat my words. In Arabic. Slowly, she glanced at her father. He nodded. Her voice carried, Al-thika la taktub bil midad, bal bil af'al. Trust is not written in ink, but in actions. The cadence filled the room. Executives exchanged uneasy glances. Sophia didn't blink. Convenient. Language is fluid. A recital doesn't assure us this isn't staged. She snapped her folio shut. Until I'm convinced otherwise, I won't recommend this board proceed. Murmurs rippled down the table. Doubt spread fast. They weren't just questioning her words now. They were questioning whose game they were in. And for Kiana Knight, the janitor's daughter, the trial had only just begun. The meeting broke, tension still sharp in the air. Executives muttered about liability and reputations. Leonard moved to lead Kiana out, but Zahir's voice stopped them. Miss Knight. She froze, notebook clutched tight. Zahir placed 2 binders on the table, one in Arabic, the other in English. 2 versions of the same agreement. Your task is simple. Mark every place that feels different. Kiana frowned. Different how? Not grammar, not mistakes. If one sentence carries a weight the other does not, circle it. If a phrase feels heavier or lighter, pause there. Language bends. Intent. Does not her fingers trace the embossed cover? And when? 24 hours. By tomorrow's session, a ripple of disbelief spread. Caro muttered, Absurd. She's a child, not an auditor. Sophia's voice was cold. And if she fails? Zahir's answer was steady. Then I will know. He tapped the binder. This is not for lawyers, not for executives, only you, no digital copy. Paper cannot be tampered with. Leonard's voice cracked. Sir, this is too much. But Kiana spoke first. I'll do it. The room hushed. Her hand pressed the spine as if it held something alive. Zahir inclined his head, a gesture both command and respect. Then we will see whose eyes are sharper. Until tomorrow, executives whispered as they filed out. Leonard stood frozen. Kiana gripped the binders, their weight heavy in her arms. But she did not falter. 24 hours. One chance to prove the truth was hers to uncover. The bus rattled down Roosevelt, streetlights flashing over 2 binders on Kiana's lap. Leonard sat beside her, hands scarred from bleach and metal. They said nothing. The city swallowed words too heavy to speak. In their small Queen's apartment, Leonard flicked the kitchen light and set water to boil. "Table," he said gently. Kiana cleared a space, placing the Arabic binder on the left, English on the right, her taped dictionary in the middle. Leonard slid tea and grilled cheese across. "Fuel," she smiled. "Rules?" "Read out loud." "Mark feelings, not just words." "No guessing. And you keep me honest," pages whispered open. She read from Article 7 in Arabic, then translated. "Distribution of profits to a community fund, permanent." The English version read, "A tax-deductible charity may be established at the company's discretion." She circled the difference. Waqf versus charity. One is forever. The other is PR money, Article 9. Arabic required a local council with community reps. English said, "Company may seek advisory input." "They took out the must," she said. Leonard nodded, jaw tight. Article 11. Arabic required 2 signatures for post-signing changes. English allowed authorized executive alone. They turned 2 keys into 1. By midnight, Kiana found more. Article 12. 4% of profits became up to 0.4. Outside audit became company discretion. She flagged 3 sticky notes: percentage shift, fund to charity, external audit deleted. Her pencil flew through Appendix B. Arabic promised water infrastructure in 2 years. English replaced it with vague community outreach projects. "Water disappeared," she whispered. Leonard's eyes hardened. "Circle it." They built a crude grid. Article, Arabic intent, English effect, why it matters. Patterns leapt out. Power narrowed, oversight erased, money diluted. Article 15 hit harder. Arabic gave community equity participation. English reduced it to internships and events. They swapped ownership for photo ops, she muttered. By 2 a.m., the table was covered in sticky notes: pink for power, yellow for money, blue for oversight. The blue stack grew tallest. Near the end, she spotted a tiny footnote in Arabic: subject to local waqf regulations. In English, the space was blank. She wrote slowly, footnote deleted. Leonard pulled a shoebox from the shelf and set Maya's old notebook on the table, open to a page titled in her hand, Things We Promise and Mean. Kiana traced the words, then slid the page under the binders. Okay, again from the top. They worked until the kettle cooled and the city went quiet. When Kiana finally dropped her pen, the grid was full. 16 flags, each exposing how shared stewardship had been twisted into optional charity, and 1 key. Leonard covered her with his jacket as she slumped back. "You did enough." Kiana blinked, stubborn. "Tomorrow I show them." He brushed her curls aside. "Tomorrow you make them see." Kiana built a legend on loose leaf, green for alignment, yellow for tone drift, red for changed intent. She went line by line, highlighter steady. Arabic on the left, green, green, yellow, red. She scribbled a note. 2 signatures to 1 signature, power shift, a smaller one. Ship needs 2 hands on helm, Zahir metaphor consistent. Leonard watched quietly, pride etched in his tired eyes. Every so often he pushed tea closer, or shifted the dictionary so the light fell right. Kiana flipped to appendices, circling a footnote about third-party auditors. She wrote, external equals independent eyes. English loses independence. Then, why hide in footnote? Leonard pulled down a thin notebook wrapped in ribbon, Maya's. In it, careful handwriting read, Al-Kalima Nur. When the house is dark, a word of truth is a lamp. Kiana traced the script. She wrote it pretty. Then slid the notebook under the contracts. We'll borrow her lamp. Back to Article 7, she marked, shared fund not charity, waqf stays. Another note, English adds company discretion. How many? Leonard asked. 11 reds, 5 yellows. Greens only where it doesn't matter. It's clean on greetings, messy on power. She pulled a blank sheet, drawing columns. Power, money, oversight. Reds filled quickly. Power shifted from 2 signers to 1. Money from 4%, guaranteed to 0.4 optional. Oversight from outside auditors to company discretion. They softened all 3, she said. Leonard nodded. So if they signed the English, they'd think they bought a bridge, but the pilings wouldn't reach the riverbed, she wrote at the top, shape of the drift. The apartment settled around them. Pipes ticked, TV murmured next door. Kiana added a glossary, Waqf, Majlis, Shura. She linked Shura to the two signatures clause and wrote, Community hand removed. Leonard slid his cracked phone across. If they ask you to prove it, you can't just say it feels different. That's why we show pairs, Kiana answered. Arabic intent, English effect, outcome. No arguing over feelings when results don't match. He touched Maya's notebook again. A word of truth is a lamp. Kiana clipped her packets. Examples, glossary, outcome grid. On the front she wrote, When words change who holds the key, it's not translation, it's power. Leonard draped his jacket on her shoulders. She didn't notice, eyes locked on the binders. Sleep a few hours, he said. Both hands steady, she whispered. Under the kitchen light, red, yellow, and blue notes glowed, a map of how truth had been twisted and how she would bring it back. Morning sun cut across the small conference room. A table, 4 chairs, no entourage. Zahir sat at one end, Caro and Sophia at the other. Kiana slid into her seat, 3 clipped packets stacked neat, Maya's notebook on top. Leonard waited by the door, silent. Zahir nodded. Begin. Kiana pushed the first packet forward. Examples. Arabic on the left, English on the right. I marked where the meaning bends. Caro flipped. His brows rose. Article 7, Kiana said. Arabic, profits to a community fund, permanent. English, charity at company discretion. She wrote on the board, Waqf, an endowment, permanent. Charity and discretion are not the same. She turned another page. Article 12, Arabic, 4% of profits, audited by third party. English, up to 0.4, audit at company discretion. Caro frowned. That decimal. It moves money and oversight, Kiana said. Those are outcomes. Next page. Arabic, 2 signatures required. English, 1 executive may adjust. She sketched 2 keys. This is Shura, deliberation. English removes a key. Sophia's jaw tightened. Where did you learn these terms? Glossary packet, Kiana said, sliding the second stack. Last tab, footnotes. She pointed. Arabic, subject to local Waqf regulations. English, blank. Caro exhaled. So English dodges trust law. And swaps ownership for photo ops, Kiana added, showing Appendix B. Arabic prioritizes water. English replaces it with vague outreach. Water disappears. Sophia folded her arms. Or sloppy drafting. Kiana slid the third packet. Outcome grid. Red for power, yellow for money, blue for oversight. Small things match, big levers shift. Caro studied the grid, lips thin. Zahir closed the binders, eyes steady. She found what our lawyers missed. Caro leaned back, respect creeping in. If these stand, we've been negotiating 2 different deals. Kiana capped her pencil, then put the keys back in both hands. Put water back in year 1. Put trust where money can't wander. The room held its breath. Zahir tapped the stack. We proceed on paper that says what it means. By mid-afternoon, Sophia Beaumont was on the phone, voice clipped and precise. Yes, Leonard Knight, Empire Grand Janitor. Pull everything. Employment, tax, education. The line crackled, then a reply. Howard University, 1998 to 2000. Linguistics, withdrew spring semester. Reason, medical hardship. Medical hardship, Sophia pressed. Wife diagnosed with lupus. He left to care for her. Never returned. Her eyes narrowed. She whispered, so he studied words before he scrubbed floors. That evening in the executive lounge, she slid the file to Matthew Caro. He skimmed. Howard. Linguistics? Explains the kid, doesn't it? Exactly, Sophia said. What if the janitor's feeding her lines? Using her as a front? Caro leaned back. She's 10. No earpiece, no cards. That accent, you don't fake it overnight. Sophia's tone sharpened. Don't underestimate coaching. He had training. He had motive. Wife's illness drained them. He ended up here. What better leverage than parading his daughter as a prodigy? Caro closed the file slowly. Or maybe she really is one. The chandelier fractured across their glasses, two lawyers circling suspicion like wolves. Optics matter, Sophia said. Imagine the headline, "Billion-dollar deal hinging on Janitor's daughter. It makes us look weak." Caro sighed. So what's your play? Pressure test, Sophia said. If it's her, she holds. If it's him, the cracks show. Across the lounge, Leonard entered to collect a mop bucket. He didn't glance their way. He didn't have to. The weight of eyes on his back was nothing new. Sophia closed the file with a smile. Tomorrow we'll see if the voice belongs to the girl, or the man behind her. The suspicion now wasn't just about contracts. It was about whether the truth in Arabic came from a child's gift or a father's hidden past. The employee cafeteria buzzed with microwaves and muted TV. Gloria stood by the coffee urn, jaw set. Renee Caldwell listened while a junior HR rep took notes. Sophia Beaumont lingered at the doorway. Gloria's voice was steady. I've worked here 20 years. That little girl, she ain't hustle. She's honest. Specifics? The HR rep asked. 3 summers ago, she was 7. Her mama sick, Leonard on double shift. Kid sat with a Quran and that beat-up dictionary. Read slow till she got it right. Next day she corrected me and smiled. Sophia stepped forward. What exactly did she read? Opening verses. No performance, just respect. Gloria pulled out her cracked phone. Then catch a chill. She played a clip, a small voice shaping Arabic syllables, Leonard mopping nearby, pride clear on his face. Miguel, a pantry worker, leaned in. I posted that to EmpireNet, #, little reader. The clip resurfaced, time-stamped 2 years earlier. It spread fast through staff chats. Comments stacked. Deshawn, security. Saw her with the dictionary all. Year Anna, banquets. She asked me what thaka felt like, not what it meant. Miguel, metadata clean. Clips old Caldwell. Approved presence. She stayed in staff areas. Oaks, security. Quiet, reading. No coaching. By late afternoon, the chorus was clear. She's real. In the executive lounge, Caro watched the clip twice. The small voice carried more certainty than he wanted to admit. Sophia studied it, jaw tight. No cue, no whisper. Just a child, a book, and a father glancing over with pride. Gloria folded her arms. I saw that child read Quran verses at 7. She ain't no puppet. Sophia closed her folio in silence. Downstairs, Leonard passed attendants huddled around a phone. One showed him the clip. Your baby's trending. He managed a chuckle. She always liked homework. The video leaked outside the hotel, picked up speed. By evening, IT flagged a surge in traffic. In the cafeteria, Gloria refilled the urn. Cold enough for you? She asked Sophia. Sophia handed the tablet back. I'll concede the point. For now, but the balance had shifted. Some truths don't need permission, only witnesses who refuse to look away. The special boardroom sat 3 floors above the main conference level, doors carved with cedar patterns from Fez. A long table gleamed under low chandeliers, each seat set with a folder and a headset for live translation. Zahir al-Fulan entered last, prayer beads in hand. He stood at the head of the table. Today, he said in measured Arabic, we speak plainly. Headsets clicked on. Almost immediately brows furrowed. What Zahir said, this partnership allocates a fixed percentage of profits to community trusts. What the English page read, flexibility in profit allocation, subject to board discretion. A subtle change, but in this room, a fracture. Zahir continued, calm and deliberate. No investment is sacred unless the people it touches are lifted. The translation, no investment is sacred unless shareholders are prioritized. Eyes darted across the table. Sophia leaned toward Caro. These aren't errors, they're reversals. Caro flipped pages, finger stabbing at clauses. Someone rewrote this for control. A golf partner ripped off his headset. Your English text dishonors what he spoke. Another frowned. Which is binding? Arabic or English? Zahir folded his hands. That is why we test the table. The Arabic pages committed to trusts and oversight. The English bent toward corporate discretion. At the rear wall, Leonard stood silent in his janitor's jacket. Even he could see. Words were weapons. Kiana, beside him, whispered, he said waqf, a trust, but here it says optional donation. Zahir's voice rang again. Contracts without truth are palaces without foundations. The translation softened it. Contracts without precision risk instability. Half the room looked ill, and the 10-year-old girl at the back was catching every fracture. For the first time, the room realized the battle was not numbers, it was words. Silence thickened until a small voice cut through. May I show you something? Heads turned. Kiana rose, notebook in hand. She spread a folded sheet across the table, arrows and boxes in pencil. Clause 7.2, she said. Arabic promises profit shares to a community trust. English says optional charity. One word turns required into voluntary. Her arrow pointed further. That change allows a board override. Another arrow, Zurich routing path. Final box, Northbridge Advisory, LLC. Beneath it she had written, owned by U.S. Counsel. Zahir's eyes narrowed. You are saying funds are diverted to a company under my advisor's control? Kiana's nod was steady. Yes, sir. The Arabic says public trust. The English makes it optional. That word opens the tunnel. Gasps rippled. A 10-year-old found this? One partner whispered. Caro snapped. It's conjecture. A child's doodle. Not conjecture, Zahir said, voice calm, almost too calm. He placed both palms on the table. This is clarity. Sophia's pen froze. Her silence was its own admission. Kiana lifted her chin. My mom used to say words can build bridges or walls. Here they built a wall, and behind it, someone made a door only they could open. The room shifted uneasily. Leonard at the back swallowed hard, pride and fear colliding. Zahir raised the page carefully, as though it might tear. Our translators missed it. Our lawyers missed it, but the janitor's daughter saw it. The chandelier light glinted on the penciled arrows. For the first time, the map of deceit lay bare, not by seasoned executives, but by a child with a notebook. The pencil map lay in the center of the table, like a detonator. No one touched it. Jeff Powers broke first, chair scraping loud. You expect us to take legal notes from a child? His palm slammed the table. Kiana rose, calm. I didn't write the law. I just read it. A murmur rippled. Caro gestured. Sit down, Jeff sneered. We're not rewriting a billion-dollar deal because a 10-year-old doodled Zurich on a page. He froze. Sophia's eyes narrowed. Zurich. No one said that aloud, until now Jeff stiffened. It's on her paper. Caro studied him. But you knew before you looked. Kiana's finger traced her notes. Northbridge Advisory gets the transfer. It's public registry. Jeff scoffed. Routine advisory firm. Sophia cut in. Routine firms don't advise themselves. Zahir's voice was cold. Mister. Powers, if you have context, speak now. Jeff blustered. We're being railroaded by spectacle. Leonard stepped forward. She followed the words you gave her. That's not spectacle, Jeff snapped. Howard University Linguistics, 2 years. You expect us to believe you didn't coach her? Leonard stood firm. She didn't need me. Kiana's voice was steady. I learned because my mom loved these words. Jeff barked a laugh. Now a janitor's kid is our translator and auditor. Enough, Zahir commanded. Her grid. Hand it to Miss. Beaumont Kiana passed the page. Sophia read the columns. Power, money, oversight. Her face paling at the pattern. Caro spoke low. Arabic binds authority to 2 signatures. English gives it to 1. We're signing 2 different realities. Jeff tried again. You can't let a child dictate. She does not dictate, Zahir said. She reveals. The outburst cracked something open. Caro snapped to action. Get legal in here. 2 associates entered, Priya Das with contracts, Evan Lee with a laptop and glossary. Article 7, Caro ordered. Priya read Arabic. Evan translated, profits to a community trust, permanent share. Priya flipped to English. A tax-deductible charity may be established at company discretion. Evan shook his head. Not equivalent. Waqf is binding. Charity at discretion is optional. Caro's jaw tightened. Article 12. Priya, 4% of net profits to community trust, independent audit. Evan read the English. Up to 0.4% for charitable activities, audit at company discretion. Decimal moved, audit weakened Caro. Post-signing adjustments. Priya, Arabic, 2 signatures required. Evan, English, single executive may adjust. The child's 2 keys to 1 is correct. Jeff stared at the ceiling. Appendix B, Caro said. Priya, Arabic prioritizes water infrastructure years 1 and 2. Evan, English, community outreach post-launch. Water gone. A Gulf partner slammed his palm. Water was non-negotiable. Caro leaned back. We're negotiating against ourselves. Footnotes, Kiana whispered. Priya checked. Arabic, subject to local Waqf regulations. English, omitted silence. Then Caro asked, who drafted the English? Priya hesitated. Northbridge advisory templates. Red lines passed through Power's team, and outside council heads turned. Jeff muttered, industry standard. Evan snapped. Industry standard doesn't move decimals or delete footnotes. Sophia closed her folio. We need a forensic doc trail, metadata, authorship. Caro nodded. Do it. Sophia looked at Leonard, then Kiana. For what it's worth, your findings track. Arabic governs where English drifts. Leonard's shoulders eased. Kiana held her notebook tight. Zahir murmured, prayer beads hidden in his palm. Truth has weight. Today it sits with the child. Caro straightened. Effective immediately, English draft suspended. We revert to Arabic intent, clause by clause, with independent translation. He turned to Priya and Evan. Bring a certified Maghrebi linguist. Outside network, on it, Priya said, already typing. Sophia rose, meeting Leonard's eyes. I misjudged you. And her Leonard dipped his head. She's been reading a long time. Kiana tucked her pencil behind her ear. We all have. For the first time since the meeting began, the room exhaled. The cross-check was complete. The center of gravity had shifted. For good. Zahir stood, palms resting lightly on the table, the Arabic binder closed beneath his hands like a sealed oath. 2 items, he said. First, adopt the amended agreement. Arabic intent restored, verified by independent Maghrebi linguists. 4% to the community Waqf, 2 signatures on all adjustments, independent audits, water infrastructure prioritized in years 1 and 2. Second, establish a community development trust to administer the Waqf. I propose Mr. Leonard Knight as its inaugural steward, with an oversight council comprised of community representatives and board delegates. Up or down vote, each item separately. No amendments on the floor. The room tightened around the words. Pens stilled, chairs creaked. Caro glanced down the table. For the record, he said, voice measured, our legal cross-check confirms the drift. The amended text reflects what was intended, not invented. Sophia lifted the outcome grid, the one colored by a child's hand, and set it in front of her like a standard. She didn't speak. Jeff Powers leaned back, eyes on the ceiling as if searching for an exit in the plaster. You're asking us to crown a janitor. Zahir didn't look at him. I am asking you to trust the person who protected us before any of us knew we needed protecting. Leonard shifted at the back wall. Sir, I'm not... Kiana touched his sleeve. He stopped. Caro folded his hands. Call the first vote. Zahir raised his own. Item 1. Approve the amended contract as read. Silence held for 1 heartbeat. 2. Then a Gulf partner's hand rose, steady. Another followed. On the American side, Priya lifted hers, advisory, but visible. Caro raised his jaw set. Across from him, Evan nodded once and raised a hand he technically didn't have. a small human error no one corrected. Sophia's hand came up next. No flourish, just certainty. Eyes shifted to Jeff. He stared at the Arabic binder as if it might blink. Slowly, grudgingly, his hand rose to shoulder height, then higher. "For the record," he said. "My vote is for the record." Zahir counted. The ayes carry. Item 1 passes a breath, almost a collective one, moved the air. Item 2, Zahir continued, establish the Community Development Trust. Steward, Leonard Knight. Safeguards, a 7-seat council, 2 community delegates selected by a public process, 1 independent auditor, 2 board members rotating annually, 1 legal ethics officer, and the steward. All disbursements require 2 signatures and public reporting, each quarter. Caro hesitated, then looked down the room at Leonard. "You willing to carry that weight?" Leonard glanced at Kiana, then at his hands, scarred, chemical rough. "If the work is real," he said, voice low, "I'll carry what I can. And when I can't, I'll ask for help." Sophia turned a page in her pad. Deed the trust into a structure that cannot be repurposed. Waqf instruments filed locally. Independent counsel to draft. If those conditions are baked, I vote yes. Zahir nodded once. So noted. Caro raised his hand. Yes. A Gulf partner lifted his. Yes. Across the table, a younger partner glanced at Kiana, then up. Yes. Jeff drummed his fingers, then stopped. "Put an internal risk review seat on the council," he said, eyes on the binder, not on Leonard. Rotating, no veto power, just visibility. "Granted," Zahir replied. Jeff's hand rose. "Yes," Sophia lifted hers. "Yes." Zahir looked to the back of the room. "Miss Caldwell?" he asked toward the doorway. Renee, who had been standing just outside with Gloria, blinked and stepped in, startled to be addressed. He didn't ask for her vote, he asked what mattered. "Can he do it?" Zahir said. Caldwell's answer was simple. "He already is." Zahir raised his own hand last. "Yes," he turned to Leonard. "Mr. Knight, the trust is yours to steward. You will not be alone." Leonard couldn't find words. He swallowed, nodded once. Gloria bit her lip and looked at the ceiling till her eyes cleared. Kiana stood a little taller, notebook pressed to her chest. She didn't speak either. She didn't need to. Zahir closed the session with a single line, in English this time. "Let the record show. Today we wrote what we meant." Pens moved, hands lowered. Outside the windows, the city kept its pace. Inside, the vote had done more than pass a motion. It had put the keys back in both hands, and put a new hand on the key that opened the door for everyone else. The press room lights burned white hot. Microphones sprouted from a chrome lectern like iron flowers. Logos lined the backdrop. Empire Grand, Al Fulan Holdings, Landmark Hospitality. Reporters pressed shoulder to shoulder, cameras perched, red tally lights blinking awake. Zahir stepped to the lectern, jacket buttoned, expression composed. Leonard stood a pace behind and to the left, hands folded. Kiana held a stack of corrected translations, edges squared, the top page marked with color tabs. "Good afternoon," Zahir began. "We reconvened our negotiations and corrected the record. Today we signed an agreement that reflects our true intent. 2 hands on the helm, independent audits, and a permanent community waqf. And yes," he let the pause breathe, "sometimes it takes a child to remind us what truth sounds like." Shutters chattered. A reporter from a national business channel lifted a hand. "Did you replace your translators?" "We expanded them," Zahir said. "Independent Maghrebi linguists will verify every clause. Where language drifted, we returned to meaning." A tech journalist called out, "Who flagged the drift first?" Zahir turned slightly. "Miss Kiana Knight." He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. All eyes shifted. Kiana's fingers tightened on the binder, but her face stayed calm. A fashion of whispers moved across the room. "That's the kid." A local paper's reporter tried a soft pitch. "Kiana, how did you—" Sophia stepped forward just enough to shield. "Contract questions to counsel," she said evenly, then angled her body to let Kiana breathe behind her. a finance columnist, raised his voice. Mr. Al-Fulan, there are allegations of mismatched clauses favoring board discretion. Was that error or intent? Both are unacceptable, Zahir said. We sign what we mean. If our English did not mean what our Arabic did, we corrected it. Who oversees the community fund? A public radio voice asked. Zahir gestured toward Leonard. Mr. Leonard Knight will steward the Community Development Trust with a 7-seat council, community delegates, independent audit, rotating board seats, and a legal ethics officer, 2 signatures for all disbursements, quarterly public reports. Cameras swung. Leonard met the lenses without flinching. We'll publish the numbers, he said, voice quiet but carrying. If we miss, you'll see it. If we hit, you'll see that too. A tabloid voice cut in, sharper. Are you qualified to manage millions, Mr. Knight? Leonard didn't blink. I'm qualified to keep promises. We'll have auditors, council, and community seats. Nobody does this alone. Gloria stood at the side wall in her bellwoman blazer, chin high. Renee Caldwell hovered near the door, phone buzzing in her palm with corporate alerts. From the second row, a younger reporter asked, What changed between yesterday and today? Sophia lifted the outcome grid Kiana had drawn and set it on the lectern like evidence. Red, yellow, blue. We aligned power, money, and oversight with the original intent. We also initiated a forensic review of version history. If we find misconduct, we won't hide it. Zurich, someone called. Is there an investigation? Document trail first, Sophia replied. Then statements. Another hand. Kiana, just one question. What did you write on the first page? Kiana glanced down. The title line showed in neat block letters. When words change who holds the key, it's not translation. It's power. She didn't read it aloud. The camera zoomed and took it for her. Zahir closed the session. We will provide the amended texts and plain language summaries to the press within 48 hours. The Trust's first priorities, water infrastructure and independent audits, begin immediately. A final question tried to wedge through. Why trust a child in a boardroom? Zahir answered without looking away from the crowd. Because the boardroom forgot how to listen, he stepped back from the microphones. Leonard placed a steady hand on Kiana's shoulder. The cameras kept rolling as father and daughter stood beneath the lights, one holding a new title, the other holding the words that made it possible. The clip is 38 seconds long. A boardroom, a chandelier. A small voice. Trust is not written in ink, but in action. Someone added captions, white on black. It lands on every screen like a knock you can't ignore. Within an hour, it's stitched, clipped, slowed, subtitled. Feeds light up, #NightDaughter, #SilenceNoMore, #ArabicGirl. Wonder a linguist with a blue check posts a side-by-side waveform of Kiana's phrase, and a Casablanca newscast, accents legit, meanings cleaner than the official translation. A Maghrebi poet replies, She didn't copy us, she heard us. The thread spirals into 1,000 hearts and prayer hands. HBCU accounts pick it up. From the custodial closet to the conference table, salute to the knights. A Howard Alem writes, Leonard, you were in our halls. We see you, brother. Someone drops an old campus zine scan with a byline. Leonard Knight, on language and power, grainy, determined. Church pages share the verse from Maya's notebook in full calligraphy, Al-Kalima Nur. When the house is dark, a word of truth is a lamp. Underneath, a deacon types, she turned the light on. Skeptics bark from the edges. Staged, PR plant, no way a 10-year-old. But the inside voice receipts arrive faster. Hotel staff repost the hashtag Little Reader hallway video from years back. Metadata checks flash across the comments. Timestamp verified. A union rep for hospitality workers writes, We've always had brilliance in back halls. Today you noticed a black business reporter drops a column that fans out like a banner across phones. When a janitor's daughter became our nation's voice. She writes about mothers teaching children to speak carefully in rooms that weren't built for them. about fathers whose hands smell like cleaners, but still turn pages at night, about the particular pressure of being believed in a country that expects you to be quiet. One line pins itself to the top of the trend. She did not break protocol. She broke a spell. Clips from the press room splice into the timeline. Zahir's line replayed over instrumentals, then over classroom chalk scratches. Sometimes it takes a child to remind us what truth sounds like. Middle school teachers cue it up in homeroom. A Sunday school leader plays it between hymns. A barbershop TV keeps the caption rolling while clippers buzz and heads nod. Brand pages try to surf the wave and get roasted for it. Don't sell us sneakers with her courage. Fund the water she just saved. The ratio is biblical. A granular thread from a contracts attorney goes viral. She didn't do law. She did outcome mapping. Power arrow, money arrow. Oversight. That's first principles thinking most deal teams forget. Another lawyer adds, the decimal point move, 4%, 0.4%, isn't an oops, it's a strategy. The kid spotted the hand. In a quieter corner of the internet, a video call screen records an elder from a reservation council hearing the news. Water back in year 1. He covers his mouth. The clip collects tears and thanks like rain. The hotel's internal message board buckles. HR pins an official note. Media inquiries to corporate. Staff support resources available. Someone overlays Kiana's notebook cover on a tee and captions it, "Words hold keys." Commenters flood the design with scholarship links and DM for free copies. Between reposts, a simple selfie appears. Leonard in his work jacket, Kiana's curls in frame, both of them half smiling. Tired. No filter. The caption reads, "We'll publish the numbers. Hold us to it." It gets fewer likes than the flashy edits, but it's the one people save. By night, the tags settle into a steady hum. The story is no longer just about a mistranslation. It's about who gets to translate the room. And the internet, for once, agrees on something simple. The smallest voice sounded most like the truth. The cafeteria of the Empire Grand Hotel, usually buzzing with staff chatter, felt strangely hushed when Leonard and Kiana walked in the next morning. Word had spread like spilled ink on white linen. There would be visitors, important ones. Leonard's calloused hands rested lightly on Kiana's shoulders as they passed through. He was used to being invisible here, a face behind a mop bucket, a name buried in the schedule sheets. But today, eyes followed them. Some nodded with quiet respect. Others looked away, unable to process what had shifted overnight. In the far corner, a group waited. Among them was a woman in a navy blazer, the crest of a prestigious international academy embroidered on her pocket. Next to her, a man in a dark suit carried a slim leather folder. Zahir himself stood beside them, his presence turning the staff lounge into something like a council chamber. "Mr. Knight." "Miss Knight." His voice filled the space, low and steady. Leonard swallowed hard. "Sir." Zahir's gaze shifted to Kiana. "You stood where most adults falter. You listened where others refused. The world has already heard of you. But I fear the world is not always kind to children with courage." He gestured to the woman in the blazer. "This is Headmistress Clark, of the International School of Languages. She has something for you." Headmistress Clark stepped forward, opening the folder with deliberate care. Inside was a certificate edged with gold, the Academy's seal pressed deep into the paper. "Kiana Knight," she read aloud, "is hereby granted a full scholarship, covering tuition, materials, and study abroad opportunities until the completion of her secondary education." The cafeteria exhaled as, one. Some gasped, others whispered. A cook dropped a ladle into a pot. Kiana blinked, the words hovering in the air as though they weren't meant for her. Leonard's throat tightened. For a man who had sold his textbooks to pay medical bills, who had lived paycheck to paycheck since his wife's passing, this paper was heavier than gold. Headmistress Clark closed the folder gently and handed it to Kiana. The girl touched the cover with trembling fingers, almost afraid it would vanish. "Thank you," she whispered. Zahir stepped closer. His hand, weathered yet commanding, held out a small velvet box. And this, from me. Kiana opened it. Inside lay a Quran, bound in deep green leather, Arabic script embossed in gold on one side, English on the other. The pages shimmered faintly under the cafeteria lights. "For the girl who speaks with light," Zahir said softly. "This book carried us through centuries of struggle and triumph. May it remind you that words are not weapons, they are bridges, and you, Kiana Knight, are already building them." Her small fingers brushed the gold letters. She looked up at him, eyes shining with both awe and humility. "I'll take care of it," she said simply. Leonard wiped his eyes with the back of his sleeve, embarrassed at his own tears. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "You need not say anything, Mr. Knight," Zahir replied. "Your daughter has already spoken enough truth for both of you." Behind them, staff broke into applause, hesitant at first, then swelling until it filled the room. Gloria clapped loudest, her voice breaking through. "That's our girl!" Kiana clutched both the folder and the Quran against her chest, their weight pressing not as burden, but as promise. For a moment, Leonard saw his late wife in her, eyes alight, hands full of words that could move mountains. And for the first time in years, he felt something other than exhaustion. He felt hope. The cafeteria doors swung open as journalists arrived, cameras flashing, pens scratching. But in that instant, it didn't matter how many headlines spun out of this moment. What mattered was that a janitor's daughter now carried the future under her arm, a bridge in one hand, a light in the other, and the world was watching. The Empire Grand's lobby waited in polished silence, marble floors buffed to a mirror, orchids tight with bloom under the chandelier's spill of light. A small stand had been placed beside the concierge desk, draped in velvet crimson. Housekeeping paused at the mezzanine rail. Bell staff lined the columned wall. Guests slowed, curious, phones already lifted. Renee Caldwell stepped forward with a slim folder. "Thank you for gathering," she said, voice even, hands steady. "Today we mark what should never be forgotten." Gloria took the cord. Leonard stood with Kiana a half step behind, his hand loose at her shoulder, like he feared any pressure might tilt reality back out of shape. Sophia Beaumont and Matthew Caro watched from the second row, expressions pared down to plain respect. Renee nodded. Gloria pulled, velvet slipped, and the metal caught the light. A brushed brass plaque, crisply engraved. "Trust is not written in ink, but action." Kiana Knight, age 10. The letters were deep enough to cast their own shadows. Next to it, in a simple black frame, a photograph, father and daughter in a back hallway, his work jacket thrown over her shoulders, her arms banded tight around his waist, both faces pressed together in the small, stunned relief of a day that refused to crush them. A breath moved through the lobby, a hush that sounded like yes. From the edge of the crowd, a child read the line aloud, careful, reverent. A guest in a charcoal suit lowered his phone and put it away. Housekeepers nodded, one by one, as if counting themselves in. Renee turned toward Leonard. "Mr. Knight, Miss Knight, this place has always told stories in marble and glass. Today it tells one in brass." Leonard swallowed. "Thank you," he managed, voice frayed at the edges. He glanced at his daughter. "She did the reading." Kiana stepped closer to the plaque, fingertips hovering just short of the metal, as if touching it might smudge the day. "It wasn't just me," she said. "Everybody listened." Sophia's mouth curved, the smallest admission of a smile. Caro folded his arms and stared at the quote, a long beat, like a man measuring himself against it. Gloria cleared her throat. "Folks pass through this lobby to somewhere else. Let 'em pass by this too." She tapped the brass lightly with a knuckle. "Let it say what we mean before the papers do." A bell chimed from the revolving door. A delivery cart rattled through. Life resumed around the quiet center the plaque had made. Kiana studied the photograph, the jacket draped across her shoulders, the way her father's hands had found each other at the small of her back. She smiled without showing teeth, a private thing. "Can the picture stay?" she asked Renee. "It belongs here," Renee said, So do you. A couple from out of town paused, read, and took each other's hands. A porter slowed with a luggage cart, eyes shining in a way no one made a point of noticing. The concierge placed a small brass stand beneath the frame. Community Development Trust, Public Reports, Lobby Kiosk. Leonard exhaled. The sound was almost a laugh, almost a prayer. Zahir arrived quietly. No entourage, only a nod to staff as he joined the circle. He didn't speak at first, he simply read the line, then the names beneath. When he did, it was soft enough to fold into the marble. May our actions keep up. Kiana finally touched the edge of the plaque, just a fingertip, then stepped back. The letters didn't move. The day held. People began to drift, pulling suitcases and stories through the doors, but more than a few stopped to read, to take a photo, to whisper, something private to no one in particular. Words about ink and action, about promises made where everyone could see them. The brass shone on. The picture beside it kept the room honest, and the lobby, impervious, busy, forever in motion, now carried a sentence that asked it to remember. Dawn glazed the Empire Grand's windows in pale gold. Leonard Knight pushed through the employee entrance with his keycard, the familiar click greeting him like an old song. Supply closet, checklist, mop head, citrus cleaner, same cart, same wheels that always leaned a little left. He rolled past the lobby and slowed at the new brass plaque. The letters caught the morning light. He didn't touch it, just nodded once and moved on. Morning, mister. Knight Deshawn from security was already at his post, jacket crisp. Morning, Leonard said, surprised by how the name sounded from someone else's chest. In the kitchen corridor, Miguel slid a paper cup across a prep table. Extra sugar, he said. You look like a man starting 2 jobs. Leonard smiled. One at a time, brother. He turned a corner and nearly collided with a luggage cart. The bellwoman steadied it with one hand. Eyes open, hero, Gloria teased, then softened. Trust Council meets at noon. I circled it on the sign-in. You show up clean. Always do, Leonard said. He cleared a spill outside the elevator bank, the mop's figure 8 an old reflex. 2 executives waited, voices hushed until the doors slid open. The younger one reached to hold the elevator, then stepped back and said, Go ahead, sir. Leonard shook his head. You first. When the doors closed, he caught his reflection in the brass. Same jacket, same hands, something steadier behind the eyes. A phone buzzed in his pocket. Kiana, a photo from a book-lined office. Headmistress Clark beside her, the green leather Quran on the desk. Orientation this afternoon. Don't forget lunch. He typed back, Proud of you, drink water, show your work. On the mezzanine, Renee Caldwell waited with a thin folder. Morning, mister. Knight, she said, deliberate. First deposit to the Community Development Trust lands Friday. I flagged an auditor shortlist, 3 firms that don't answer to anybody here. She passed him a simple 1-page. Also, 2 community nominees for the council. 1 from the Neighborhood Coalition, 1 from a water nonprofit. Leonard read the names like he was learning them by heart. We'll need a room. Big enough for 7 chairs and a table that doesn't wobble. Old event storage, Renee said. I'll have engineering level the legs. A regular guest crossed the lobby, hauling a roller bag that had seen continents. He slowed when he saw Leonard and switched hands to free the other. Morning, mister. Knight, the handshake was firm, easy. Saw the press conference. Good work, Leonard's throat tightened. Good morning, sir. The guest smiled. Name's Adebayo. I'm back next week. I'll be looking for those public reports. You'll have them, Leonard said. He scrubbed scuff marks from the marble seam by the concierge desk, knees popping when he stood. Work is work, he'd told himself for years. Today it felt like truth and not surrender. By 10, the lobby was a tide. Check-ins, suits, tourists melting maps with their thumbs. Sophia Beaumont paused on her way to the elevators. No speech, no drama. Just a small nod that made a full sentence. Leonard returned it. Over her shoulder, Matthew Caro lifted a to-go cup in salute. At 11:30, He pushed his cart back to the closet and washed his hands twice, scrubbing the citrus out but leaving the clean. He swapped jackets, the same navy, now with a visitor badge clipped beside his staff tag. Steward, Community Development Trust. "Straighten that," Gloria said, stepping close to pin it flat. "Names should be read clean." "Yes, ma'am." They walked together toward the old event storage, now a makeshift council room. Through the glass, he saw a folding table, 7 chairs, a pitcher of water, a stack of blank agendas. Renee was placing a borrowed conference phone in the center. Evan Lee was taping a sign on the door. Public minutes posted quarterly. Lobby kiosk. Leonard hesitated at the threshold, then crossed it. He set his palm on the table to test the wobble. Solid. He looked back through the hallway, where the plaque caught noon's sharper light, and the framed photo held steady. Across the lobby, Mr. Adebayo tipped 2 fingers in a small salute before disappearing into the revolving door. Leonard checked his watch. 5 minutes to the hour. He took the chair that wasn't at the head or the foot, but in the long middle of the table, where work gets passed hand to hand. The door opened, and the first council member stepped in. Outside, someone read the brass line aloud for the first time that day. Inside, Leonard folded his hands, not to pray or to hide them, but to begin. The apartment was quiet except for the ticking radiator and the faint scratch of a pencil. At the kitchen table, Kiana leaned over her open dictionary, hoodie sleeves bunched at her wrists. A lamp with a crooked shade cast a pool of amber light, pages glowing like warm stone. Columns of Arabic roots lined the paper, ink dense, edges worn from years of her fingers tracing them. She whispered the words as she wrote them in her notebook. Aman, safety. Thaka, trust. Nur, light. Her pencil paused, then moved again, careful, deliberate. From the doorway, Leonard watched. He had showered after his shift, the scent of cleaner finally gone from his hands. A jacket hung loose over his shoulders, but his eyes stayed fixed on the small figure, hunched in determination, curls haloed by the desk lamp. "Baby girl," he said softly. Kiana looked up, blinking from the light. "Almost done." Just 3 more. Leonard stepped forward. Something, small, tucked under his arm. He placed it on the table beside her dictionary, a slim, leather-bound book, edges softened by years. Kiana touched the cover. "Mum's?" He nodded. "Her poetry journal." I kept it put away, till now her fingers trembled as she opened to the first page. The handwriting curved across the paper, steady and graceful. At the top, in blue ink, was a single line. "To Kiana, so you never lose your voice." Beneath it, a stanza flowed in both Arabic and English. The words shimmered under the lamplight. Al-Kalima Nur. When the house is dark, a word of truth is a lamp. Kiana traced the letters slowly, lips moving without sound. She looked up, eyes glassy. "She wrote it for me," Leonard's voice caught. "Before you could read. She said one day, you'd carry her words further than she ever could." Kiana closed the dictionary and set her pencil down. She pulled the journal closer, almost hugging it. "I'll take care of it." "You already are," Leonard said. He pulled out the chair across from her and sat. For a long moment they didn't speak. The lamp hummed, and the city beyond their window blinked with distant neon. Kiana flipped a few pages, stopping at a verse about rivers carving stone. She whispered it in Arabic first, then in English, her voice a little shaky but growing steady. "Patience is water, and water wears mountains." Leonard leaned back, exhaling. "Your mama would have smiled at that." Kiana grinned faintly. "Maybe she is." The words lingered, softening the air. Leonard reached across and squeezed her hand. His palm was rough, hers small and ink-stained. They sat like that, hand over hand, the journal between them. Kiana tilted her head toward the lamp. "Can we leave it on a little longer?" "Yeah," Leonard said. "Light stays on." She bent over the journal again, this time copying one of her mother's verses into her notebook, careful to keep the script exact. The yellow light washed over her curls, her pencil, the poetry sliding from one generation to the next without missing a beat. Leonard watched, eyes steady now. The girl who had carried truth into a boardroom was still just his daughter, reading under a crooked lamp, holding on to words that kept the dark away. The radiator ticked once, then fell quiet. Outside, the city moved on. Inside, the light held. And across the first page of Maya's book, the inscription glowed as if written fresh. To Kiana, so you never lose your voice. Trust is not written in ink, but action. Kiana Knight, age 10. In a world built on silence, sometimes the smallest voice becomes the loudest echo. Not every hero carries a title. Sometimes it is the child who dares to speak, the hand that holds a lamp in the dark. If this story touched you, don't let it stay silent. Hit subscribe, share it with someone who needs reminding, and drop a comment. Who do you see now that you once overlooked? Because here, every untold story finds its voice.